But first, please welcome the 26th United States Secretary of Labor, Thomas Perez. Hey, Mr. Secretary, how you doing? Great to have you here. Okay, all right. So you are the Secretary of Labor.
Absolutely.
Look at you.
That's what my wife says.
And you're the 26th. Now, no, this wasn't from the beginning of the Republic. George Washington didn't have the Secretary of Labor, right? When did it start?
It's been around over 100 years.
100 years,
Yeah.
okay. So, and we are almost at, or maybe we are at what they call full employment, right?
Well, we're not quite. I still think we've got more room for improvement, but we've come a long way under
But
this
what is the
president.
unemployment rate?
The unemployment rate right now is 5%.
5%, but they usually say that is full employment.
Well, I'll tell you,
Because it's like, I mean, America has always said this, that like 1 out of 20 people we can't take responsibility for. 1 out of 20 are just ne'er-do-well, losers, fuck-ups who are not going to get a job no matter what you do. Come on, admit that.
I know a few of them. Yeah, I got to admit. I won't name names.
Okay, so, but I'm sure you heard Donald Trump at one point said that figure is completely wrong. He said it's more like 28, 29%, and then he went, or maybe even 35. In fact, I heard, because this is how he gets his information, you know, I heard.
You heard it from Cliff Clavin.
I heard it might be as high as 42.
Yeah.
What would America look like if unemployment was at 42?
Well, I mean, there's a reason his name rhymes with dump. Because, you know, he's really full of, you know what. And
Shit, it's HBO, you can
well,
say
I'm
it.
sorry. You know, my mother taught me.
Right, okay.
But, you know, in order to have that, we'd have to have my 95-year-old grandmother working. We'd have to have my, you know, high school sophomore working. I mean, the reality is this, Bill. This president inherited a mess, the worst mess of our lifetime. The unemployment rate was inching up to 10%. 2 million plus jobs lost in the 3 months before he took office. And now we've seen 73 months in a row of private sector job growth to the tune of over 14 million jobs. And there's an Eeyore Caucus out there.
It must be so frustrating for you guys if you watch the Republican debates, because they talk about the last 8 years like they didn't happen. I'm going to bring jobs back.
Yeah.
But that, happened, you know?
I mean, my favorite fact-free zone comment is when we hear from Ted Cruz and others that Obamacare has been a job killer. We've had 14.3 million jobs created since the Affordable Care Act was passed. We've seen African-American enrollment, the ranks of the uninsured among African Americans has gone down by 50%. Latino has gone down substantially. And so this fact-free zone is indeed fact-free.
But okay, but honestly, now there's some bullshit, sorry Mom, on the Democratic side too, because I mean, they always talk about how manufacturing, you know, all the manufacturing jobs are gone. That's not true, right? Aren't we actually doing pretty well with manufacturing?
Well, you know, we've had, the last year has been challenging. And it's been challenging for two simple reasons. We have a strong dollar, and we have a global economy outside the United States that is still struggling. And so when you have a strong dollar, it's harder to export things. But the 6 years before that, we saw the best growth in manufacturing since the 90s. And I visited people. I visited a guy in Ohio who'd been a steel worker for 25 years, lost his job. We helped him. We're like Match.com. We match, you know, workers who want to punch their ticket to the middle class with employers who want to grow their business, and we use the secret sauce of training. And now he works in specialty steel. And he said to me, and I'll never forget it, you know, Tom, I used my brawn for 25 years, and now I'm using my brain. And that's what's so insulting about the Eeyore Caucus is that they do a disservice.
What?
The Eeyore Caucus of Republicans who say, you know, everything is bad. You know, they could win the lottery on a Friday and they'd complain that the banks are closed till Monday.
Right.
And what's so frustrating is it does such a disservice to the millions and millions of Americans who are kicked to the side of the road at this recession and have climbed back through their grit and determination. And to sit there and deny that is such a disservice.
Right, okay. So what about minimum wage? Now, that's a big issue in this campaign. Sure. Bernie wants it to be $15 across the board. Hillary says only that in the big cities, otherwise 12. Elizabeth Warren says if we pegged it to productivity since 1960, it would really be $22.
Well,
and honestly, I don't know how you can live on even $15.
Well, the minimum wage stands for the simple proposition that no one who works a full-time job should have to live in poverty. And I meet so many people in this job, Bill, who are working a full-time job and getting their food at the food pantry. I met a woman in Detroit who fast food
Well, you get
worker.
out a lot.
I make house calls in this job.
I see that.
Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
on the case.
And the night before I met her, she has 3 kids. She works in the fast food area, and she slept in her car. We can do better than that as a nation. And what the president has supported, and I support, and the likes of Elizabeth Warren and Patty Murray and other progressive Democrats support, is a $12 federal floor, and then $15 elsewhere. The first trip I took in 2016 was to stand with Andrew Cuomo for the fight for 15 in New York, and they've succeeded. I've spent a lot of time with Eric Garcetti, and I appreciate his leadership in putting forth a $15 minimum wage here in Los Angeles and now across the state. Upwards of 60 million people now are living.
But I read that in the private sector, over 80% of the private sector is service industry. Which makes it sound to me like there's a few rich people and then a lot of people waiting on them.
Well, I mean, here's the reality of our world right now is that we've made this tremendous progress that I pointed out, but the equal reality is that our economy is still out of balance. We have way too many people. The rising tide needs to lift all the boats, not just the yachts. And the unfinished business of this recovery is to make sure we have shared prosperity. And that's what I do every day in this job, is to make sure that people have the skills to succeed and the retirement security to succeed and that they get paid for the work that they do.
And I understand you are the first cabinet secretary to be confirmed on a strict party line vote. You didn't get one Republican vote, right?
On cloture, actually on both, yeah.
That's amazing because, I mean, no offense, but this is not one of those cabinet positions that usually is that controversial. It's not one of the sexy ones, again. I'm not trying to insult you, but it's not Attorney General or Secretary of Defense. It's labor. Come on, give it to them.
Well, I mean, here's the reality, Bill. The sex talk is getting me a little uncomfortable. Bill, the reality is this, and here's why that happened. Before I had this job, I ran the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department. And in that job, I fought the mortgage industry because they were screwing African Americans and Latinos. I fought against voter ID laws. Fought against voter ID laws in Texas and elsewhere. I took on Joe Arpaio and other sheriffs who were abusing people. That was the world I lived in. I did that because you know what? America is better when everyone has access to opportunity. And
you made enemies
some people didn't
by doing the right thing.
And someone said that
you're always welcome.
You can judge a person by the enemies they make. And my holiday card list did not get longer.
You're always welcome here for that. Great job. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. All right.